Hey, it's Mary Ellen. Today is Wednesday, June 26th. Today I was watching, this is 2019. Today I was watching a live stream from the steps of the Supreme Court. I need to turn my phone off just a second and turn the volume down so I can watch the live chat. So here we go. All right. There was a group of people who were celebrating marriage and protesting the Hodges versus, I think it was Oberdorf. It was the Supreme Court ruling where the homosexual unions were justified as being considered marriages. And it was interesting to watch the protesters. They were young, mostly female, shouting out, trying to shout down the speakers who were on microphones. They had a little mic. They had a mic set up, and they had several. I knew one of the speakers, and they had several speakers there. And the group on the side was shouting down, "Love is love, love is love, love is love." There is love and there is lust and there is love and there is obedience to God. And I'm not going to say any more about that. But you know what I'm going to say about this thing? The issue isn't, what the whole point of what was going on. The issue is, here is a group of people who are standing up, pushing back, and making their voices heard. And so I want to talk a little bit today. I'll tell you about Larry in a minute. I want to talk a little bit today about our need to be involved. You're following Larry because you like hearing, I would assume, as I do, hearing the things that he is accomplishing, what is happening, getting the inside scoop because he has contacts in high places that keep him informed about things that are going on. Sometimes he gets his news from same places we do. But, he says in 28 Years to Nowhere how he got his hands on the raw files from the FBI, and they appeared in his magic mailbox where people send things that whistleblowers are afraid to bring out. The one thing about the raw files is it's unvetted information. It's something that somebody has accused another person of. Larry doesn't put that stuff out until he has had a chance to verify whether it's true or not. And so what he is verifying something, when he tells you a story, he can prove in a court of law that something actually happened or that somebody actually did something. Because he's been sued so many times since he left the employ of Bill Clinton and has been fighting that whole cabal ever since. He knew that he had to have all his ducks in a row. Back in those days, he couldn't even go on the radio without having 3 verifiable proofs of what he had to say. Now people throw information out there and they don't have proof. They're making accusations. Of course, that was what the Clinton machine did back in Arkansas. And the reason Larry did not want Bill Clinton getting into the White House is he knew that the mob rule that controlled Arkansas would become the mob rule controlling our government. And he knew through the Clinton Foundation that we would have a global mob rule. Now, those of us who've read the end of the story in Revelation and are familiar with various prophecies, we know that the New World Order is going to set up a one world government. That is going to happen. And we see the progression towards that. But that doesn't mean that we stay silent and just throw up our hands and do nothing. Larry has really struggled with his health in recent days, where part of the emotional reaction is depression, because he's very active. He wants to be busy. He has things he wants to do. He has people he needs to contact and talk to, and interact with and work on projects with. And it's very frustrating for him when he's not able to do that. And being as active as he is, please keep him in prayer, because he did the program with Jason Goodman yesterday. And by the end of the half hour, he was really, really hurting. And then we didn't have the money for him to get the treatment he needed last night. And we did finally manage to find it. But, he was waiting and really in trouble. And a huge storm started coming through, which puts him in big trouble when the air pressure changes like that, and when tornado warnings are flying, and those kinds of storms really do a number on him because of his lung disease. So I'm not going to say a lot more about his health. He needs help to be able to hang in there. We've got this wonderful new program he's part of that we need to get him to his next go round with that treatment. I was going to read a couple Bible verses that I came across. If you'll just give me 1 second. Sorry, that was 15 seconds. Something I was reading yesterday in Proverbs 25. It says, "Remove the wicked from the king's presence, and his throne will be established through righteousness." And I mentioned that both yesterday and today to the prayer group that I lead every morning. And we talked about praying for President Trump, that God would remove the wicked from his presence. I think of this man who is leading up the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. When Trump announced that 10 cities were going to have ICE agents removing illegals and sending them home, most of these people have criminal records. And my understanding is that this leader, who used to be part of the Obama administration, tipped off the mayors, and then Nancy Pelosi asked him not to do it because they were going to work on a budget. And of course, the budget is $4.5 billion, but not for the things that Trump is asking for. So the obstruction is just ridiculous. But I would encourage you to pray that God will very soon remove the wicked from President Trump's presence. And it's not that he's on a throne, but the principle is he is the leader. And then verse 26 of Proverbs 25, it says, "Like a muddied spring or a polluted well is a righteous man who gives way to the wicked." So I also want you to pray that he is not going to give in to the wicked advice, but God would give him great discernment to be able to clarify the right thing to do and not follow bad advice. I heard a really interesting take on the pulling back of the strike on Iran 10 minutes before it was go time, and hearing this person's take on what was happening behind the scenes. We know there are people who want war. The central banks make a lot of money on war. So, okay, that's it. Now, I'm just going to say quickly, remember Larry's PayPal account is nicholslive@aol.com. nicholslive@aol.com. I'm going to say again, nicholslive.com is something you can share with other people. The donate section has Larry's PayPal, a direct link. It has his personal home address where you can send cash only. So if you have a small amount to send, just put it in cash. He does get it. And when several people send it once, it really does make a big difference to what he's able to do. He uses it strictly for the treatment he gets, and um, it's very helpful. And then there's also a phone number that you can send a text message, and we can work out other options. I've been working with somebody this week who has used Western Union to help Larry. I want to give a shout out of great gratitude to some people who have gone over and above, who have really created hardship for themselves with their generosity. Some are married, some are single, some have used special funds like inheritance money. Some have used, their own savings that they need for their future, and they have decided to step out in faith. And we're praying with them that God is going to provide. We've had people who have given out of their own generosity and extra. We greatly appreciate that. We've had a couple people who've sent checks to me monthly, and then I put it into a Bank of America account that is set aside for paying bills for Larry. And then I can PayPal the money once it gets in the account. Sometimes if I have the money, I will go ahead and send it to Larry. And, if I know a check is coming and there's an urgent need, I'll just go ahead and pay it and then reimburse when it comes. There are people who really struggle to give $1 or $5 and make the sacrifice. There are people who are scared to talk to neighbors and ask others to help them put together a $1 or $5 donation. That's certainly something that I have suggested people do. There are people who want to give but have a spouse, whether it be a husband or a wife. This has been true for the last 3 years, where I call people and they can't, or they have given and have to stop because there's now cancer in their own family, medical bills that are significant that they have to take care of. We've had a lot of people on fixed incomes that may or may not be able to do something or next to nothing. I mean, I know if you're sending $1 in the mail, you still have to put a 50-cent stamp on there. So it's tough. I know that. But I want to say thank you and acknowledge every one of you who has done something, whatever the amount. It's been significant to you, and we don't do enough to acknowledge that, and I want to say thanks. Now, the one other thing I asked Larry just before I started what he thought about bringing back the newsletter we used to do called Nichols Notes. Since I was writing it up, it's Nichols Notes and Mary's Musings. What we did before was Larry would give some special insight that he probably couldn't put on YouTube because of the sensitive nature, but people who were subscribed, he would let, some people have some insider information. So he would dictate something to me, I'd type it up and put it in the newsletter, and sometimes I would add my own something that I was observing. We also advertised a little bit. I offered Hear the Watchman at free advertising of their conference because they had allowed me to sell Larry's book at the conference without paying for a table, and turnaround was definitely appropriate. And that was a way that I could thank them, and we will probably do that again, is give them free space to advertise their seminar because it's their conference. It's really good. They have some great speakers, and they have one coming up in October in California. I don't have the dates or location, but Hear the Watchmen, plural, hearthewatchmen.com. I'd be happy to advertise if you have a eBay store, if you do crafts. We had somebody when we had the Shopify website, we were advertising a man who built tables and an artist who would do portraits if you sent her a photograph of yourself or family member or an animal, a pet. Um, those are a couple of things that we've done. So if you are interested in advertising when we start up the newsletter again, let me know. If you are interested in getting the newsletter, I think I'm going to start right now by saying send the text to 240-499-6729. I've been a little too busy lately to do a lot of computer work, so I haven't been checking emails much. So just send a text message to 240-499-6729. I'll get a new notebook and I'll start a new database of who wants the newsletter. We're not sure whether we will just let advertising pay for it or whether we're going to ask you to contribute to it. That hasn't been decided yet. But yeah, anybody can send a text message 240-499-6729. I need to spend a little time talking to Larry about how we're going to do it, whether it's going to be the same as last time or that time that we were doing when we did it 2 years ago, it was $10 a quarter. And we were doing it monthly. I'd love to see it come out more often than just once a month, but we're going to have to play this by ear a little bit. It will come through your email. So if you're interested, I need your email address. And one of the things that I would really like us to start doing is start giving some of the information that Larry taught us in 2016 before the election. We need to start knowing for sure who is willing to contact the board of electors and who's going to be signing up to be a poll watcher in your community. I did poll watching 2000s. I didn't do anything last year because I was so busy with all that we're doing here with the YouTube and all. 2016, I was a poll watcher in a couple different locations, a couple different days. I was an election judge. I helped count the absentee ballots afterwards. One of the things that we did, we had contact information for a lot of the electors. And so we were contacting them, encouraging them to hold to the vote that they have promised and not switch their vote, particularly in states where they were allowed to vote their conscience rather than vote the way they were told to vote based on election results. We definitely have some issues going on with the number of states that are changing how they assign their electors and who they're supposed to vote for. We know Larry has told how the Democrats are doing, as he says, they're pulling out every trick in the book that they have ever used and have ever considered using. I don't know if you got to hear Larry yesterday with Jason Goodman. He told why he knew about the reparations. He said that he heard Jesse Jackson mention it to Bill Clinton back before Bill Clinton went to Washington, D.C. to the White House. So it's something that Larry's had in the back of his mind, waiting for them to pull that trick. He said that the loan cancellation, he kind of pulled out of his own head, just realizing when he was out to dinner with his wife a couple of years ago, he met the waiter, had been at the local university, knew his wife, and here he was waiting tables because he couldn't find a job. And so Larry realized, here's a kid waiting tables with a big college loan, can't use his education for a job. This is going to be a problem, and it's a prime opportunity for the Democrats to capture the votes from the millennials. A lot of times the young people don't bother to vote because they're not that interested in politics. But the promise of free education or loan repayment would motivate them because that's a lot of money that they are expecting in their pocket. Now, I've seen a lot of discussion of the reparations as they're talking about it, um, in Congress. Remember, Larry said yesterday that, even if the House goes ahead and votes on it now, because they're Democratic controlled, the Senate will not approve it. And therefore, they will be blamed for hurting the blacks. Therefore, you need to vote for the Democrats because they got the vote through. If it even passed the Senate, Trump would veto it, and then he will be the one blamed. But what they are all failing to tell the truth about is that the Appropriations Committee knows there is no money for this. So when a bill is passed in the House, passed in the Senate, signed into law by the president, then it goes to the Appropriations Committee. If there is no money to fund it, that's where it lies, and it stays there. And frankly, I think Larry has said there is $300 trillion in unfunded laws. So we think we're $21 trillion in debt. We are actually $321 trillion in debt. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So that's how that game works. And we need to be spreading the word and telling people that this is just a trick. Some of us don't have a lot of interaction with people in person, but if you're on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Gab, these are the truthful statements that you can spread. I just want to say again, with the website nicholslive.com, if you can afford a t-shirt, please buy a t-shirt. Please wear it. See if you can strike up a conversation about it. I'm not even getting much interaction myself, but I have been just a couple places, and where I live, there's people really ignore one another. It's kind of like New York City. But I'm going to keep at it, and I will keep talking about it as much as I can. So I don't see any other questions, and I think that's about it for today. I don't know how soon Larry will be back. We're doing our best. I do want you to know that we did get some money in that is going to help, but he will need supplemental income to add to somebody's generosity in order to stretch it out so that he actually makes it to his next big, this thing that he's doing that's supposed to really help his body to conquer the lung disease that he's dealing with. How much will come back, I don't know. He's been steadily improving since he had the first go round a couple weeks ago. Everything kind of took a nosedive a little bit today they think it's because of how he pushed himself yesterday with Jason and with the weather being what it was. And, when he starts to feel better, he tends to push because he wants to be with us. And he's having a hard time being isolated as he is. So keep him in prayer. You can, if you're on a YouTube, in the comments section of a YouTube video that you see, a lot of times we're not allowed to say to advertise nicholslive.com, but com stands for commercial. So if you put together Nichols Live as one word, then a space, spell out the word .dot, then a space, and spell out the word commercial, that is a way to trick the algorithms into not recognizing nicholslive.com as a website. And you should be able to get that through. So that was something that came up in our conference call Monday night. And there are lots of places where you could use it. So if you're on places where you think people might have money, or even if you're guessing, say something about Larry if it's appropriate. I always, very often, when I'm watching something and hear somebody talking about something that Larry has discussed, I will mention his name, and most of the time I get likes on it. And so saying something about Nichols Live, space .dot, space commercial, and whether you spell commercial with one M or two, people should be able to know that nicholslive.commercial means nicholslive.com, and they should be able to find the website from that. So let's spread that around. Get the t-shirt. Larry's CD is really, really beautiful. If Larry's not back, I will do my best to try and play a little bit for you. There, you do have under the video here, there, I don't know if it's on there right now. I have advertised in the past the link on YouTube for the demo. I'll try and find that and put that back in under today's video. So I just want to say thank you for being here. Empty Pockets, send the link to that video. Send the link to 240-499-6729. If it's something you think Larry should see, I'll watch it and pass it on to him. All right, thanks a lot. We will be back tomorrow. God bless you, and have a good evening.